issues and they don't care about us.
Actually, many of you mentioned that the politicians should speak more clearly in words and terms that normal people, understand, and not in their political terms that most of us don't really understand.
We don't have enough MPs that they can relate to. MPs from working class backgrounds, MPs
We are kind of in trust issues with our politicians and with our political life.
Knowledge is power, and media gives this power to people to change their future. However, I would like to ask whether there is a necessary legislation in the European Union for media not to be biased, not to manipulate people, but to provide unbiased information.
Some TV channels that are actually owned by a politician of a certain party, which ends up, really biased.
For example, Italy. Let's take Berlusconi. He is pretty corrupt, and we all know that. And why does the European Union, do anything against it?
In Sweden, we interviewed local journalist Erika Wyman.
How do you think young people are shown in media in Sweden?
We cover them in 3 types of stories. Whenever a school does something out of the ordinary, we'll often come to do a story on that.
I think that the media is representing a very negative picture of the politics. In Austrian TV we can always see negative news. When young people have complaints, for instance, when there are no young facilities for the young people, like skateboard parks or activity houses, or rehearsal rooms for young bands, for instance. That's also the same sort of stories.
Well, because the media is choosing the news depending on what sells best and what type of titles that would make a newspaper sell. And then we
do short stories with information that we get from the police about who's been arrested over the weekend, basically, and it often is about young people, 18 to 25-year-olds.
Everyone has the right to healthy living, but not all have it. Not now, nor in the past. But in our democratic countries, it is a right that is enforceable. In the 19th century, the average life expectancy for poor people in Liverpool was 19, due to the filthy and unsanitary living conditions in streets, schools and houses. Only a few houses had running water, so most people had to use the communal pump which, if lucky, worked twice a day. The River Mersey was dirty and cholera epidemics were frequent. Kitty Wilkinson, known in Liverpool as the Saint of the Slums, although poor, had a wash kitchen, and she was convinced that cleanliness was the greatest weapon against disease. She generously allowed many women during the cholera epidemics from 1832 onwards to wash their bed linen in her wash kitchen. She also adopted a number of children orphaned because their parents had died of cholera and taught them that cleanliness was the key to good health.
Thank you.
In 1847, Liverpool appointed Dr. Duncan as the first medical officer of health in the country.
Overcrowded schools, which are dark, confined, damp, ill-ventilated and dirty, must be kept clean and well ventilated. Those that are below standard must be condemned and closed if mortality rates are to be improved.
During the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century, there were a number of philanthropic factory owners such as William Hesketh Lever, founder of the soap factory and designer of Port Sunlight Village. He had a vision of people living and working in harmony between nature and industry. He was also enlightened enough to think that his workers would work better if they were healthier and happier, so he provided a canteen in the factory and designed sanitary, wholesome houses, a school, an art